If you ever find yourself in a place where the cemetery has no fresh graves, leave before nightfall. If the people smile too quickly and ask how long you plan to stay, lie. And if someone tells you that no one has ever died there, do not ask how. I made all 3 mistakes. This is what it cost me. I was driving to clear my head. That was the lie I told myself anyway. The truth was simpler and uglier. I had run out of reasons to stay where I was. My job felt hollow. My relationships had thinned into polite messages and missed calls. When my father died, something in me stalled like an engine that never quite turns over again. I took unpaid leave, packed a bag, and followed roads that stopped having names. The last stretch was gravel, then dirt, then something closer to a scar cut through the hills. My phone lost signal an hour before sunset. The map app froze, then reset itself to a blank grid. I should have turned back. Instead, I kept going, telling myself that any village I found would have fuel, food, and directions. The village appeared suddenly, as if it had been waiting just out of sight. A handful of houses, a low stone wall, fields that looked worked but unattended. Smoke lifted from a few chimneys. There was no signpost, no marker. Just a narrow road slipping between buildings and disappearing into trees on the other side. I slowed to a stop. The engine ticked as it cooled. The silence pressed in, broken only by the wind moving through grass. Someone knocked on my window. I startled so badly my knee hit the steering column. A man stood there, smiling. He looked ordinary in the way that makes you trust people. Mid-30s, maybe, clean shirt, tired eyes. "You must be lost," he said. It was not a question. He introduced himself as Daniel and told me the village did not get many visitors. He offered a place to stay for the night, no charge. It was late, he said, and the road ahead was worse than the one behind me. I accepted. That was my 4th mistake. They gave me a room in a house that smelled faintly of soap and wood smoke. The woman who owned it introduced herself as Marta. She pressed a cup of something warm into my hands and asked where I was from, how long I planned to stay, whether I had family expecting me. The questions were gentle but precise. She listened carefully, nodding at odd moments, as if filing things away. Dinner was communal, long tables set under a tree. The food was simple and good. Bread, stew, vegetables from nearby fields. People spoke easily, laughed at small jokes. Children ran between chairs, barefoot and loud. If I had left that night, I would remember it as a kindness. Instead, I stayed long enough to notice the gaps. There were no elderly people who needed help walking. No wheelchairs, no canes. The oldest villagers I saw looked no more than 50, their hair gray but their backs straight, their hands steady. I asked Marta about it, trying to sound casual. "We age well here," she said, smiling. "Good air." I slept poorly. The room was quiet in a way that felt deliberate. No insects, no distant dogs. When I woke before dawn, the house was already stirring. Marta was awake, humming softly, as if she had never slept. At breakfast, Daniel asked again how long I planned to stay. "Just one more day," I said. He smiled, and this time it did not reach his eyes. I meant to leave after breakfast. My car did not start. The engine turned, coughed, then went dead. Daniel and 2 others appeared almost immediately, as if they had been waiting. They pushed the car to a small shed near the edge of the village and lifted the hood. "It happens," Daniel said. "We will fix it." "How long?" I asked. He shrugged. "Hard to say. They insisted I not worry. Marta pressed food into my hands again. Someone suggested I walk, see the fields, clear my mind. The village was larger than it had looked at first. Paths led outward in careful lines, looping back on themselves. I noticed signs carved into stones at certain intersections. Simple marks repeated again and again. No one could tell me what they meant. "There are rules," a young woman said when I asked. "They keep things balanced." "What rules?" I asked. She laughed lightly and changed the subject. I found the cemetery in the afternoon. It was small, neat, and wrong. The stones were old, some worn smooth, others cracked. The names repeated. Generations of the same families, dates clustered strangely close together. There were no recent markers, no fresh earth. I stood there longer than I meant to, counting stones, reading dates. A man appeared beside me without warning. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said. "When was the last burial?" I asked. He considered this. "A long time ago." "How long?" He smiled. "Longer than you think? That night there was a gathering. A celebration, they said. I did not see a reason for it, but no one else seemed confused. Candles were lit. Food was shared. Voices rose in a low, rhythmic song I did not recognize. At the center of it all stood a stone well, covered with a wooden lid. People approached it one by one, touching the lid briefly before stepping back. When it was my turn, Daniel placed a hand on my shoulder. "You should," he said. "It is polite. What is it?" I asked. He did not answer. His hand tightened slightly. I touched the lid. It was warm. That was when the feeling started. A pressure behind my eyes, a sense of being observed from somewhere very close and very deep. It passed quickly, leaving me dizzy and shaken. They watched me carefully after that. Days blurred together. My car was always almost fixed. There was always a reason to wait one more night. I tried walking out once, following the road past the last house. I walked for hours and ended up back where I started. No one acted surprised when I returned. "We do not leave," Marta said gently. "Not once we are here." I laughed then, too loudly. "That is not funny." She looked at me with something like pity. It was Daniel who finally said it aloud. "No one dies here," he said, as if stating the weather. "And no one leaves." I waited for the explanation, the joke, the reveal. It never came. Instead, they showed me. A man fell from a ladder while repairing a roof. I saw his body twist, heard the sound it made when it hit the ground. They carried him inside. I stood shaking, waiting for the scream, the panic. An hour later he walked out, pale and quiet, but whole. "He will be sore," Marta said. That is all. I stopped eating, stopped sleeping. I watched faces looking for cracks, for fear. There was none. Only acceptance. I found records in a small building near the center of the village. Births were recorded carefully. No deaths, ever. When I confronted Daniel, he did not deny it. "We were tired of losing people," he said. "Tired of graves, tired of endings. So you did this?" I asked. He shook his head. "We agreed to it." "To what?" "To staying." The integration began quietly. People used my name more often, asked my opinion, gave me small responsibilities. I helped in the fields. I repaired a fence. My hands learned the work quickly, as if they had always known it. At night I dreamed of the well. I stopped trying to leave. That was the most frightening part, the fear dulled, replaced by something softer. A sense of relief. No more loss. No more endings. When I realized that I had gone a full week without thinking of my father, I panicked. I tried to force the memory back, to feel the grief that had driven me there. It felt distant, unimportant. That was when I understood the cost. You do not die in the village, but parts of you are quietly set down, one by one, until there is nothing left that wants to leave. I do not know how I escaped. I remember the well opening. I remember the pressure behind my eyes becoming pain. I remember screaming and the sound of it being swallowed. I woke up on the road, my car running, my phone buzzing with missed calls. The village was gone, the road was paved. There were signs again. People tell me I had a breakdown. That I imagined it. That grief does strange things to the mind. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still feel the warmth of the wooden lid under my hand. I have not aged well since then. My hair grays faster than it should. My joints ache. Doctors cannot explain it. And when I dream, I am back at the table under the tree, surrounded by smiling faces, listening to someone ask, very gently, how long I plan to stay. Because the village does not need roads. It only needs people who are tired of saying goodbye.